Welcome back to Human Edge Podcast, the show where we explore what it really takes to lead, care, and create change at the edge of human possibility. I'm your host, Anastasia WAINAINA, and today we are diving into the world of care and medical response, but not just as a policy, not just as a thing that we do, but just really as a step for caring for humanity, but also for leadership. So with me on studio today is Saul. Saul, welcome to Human Edge.
Thank you very much for having me.
I am looking forward to this conversation. And as I was saying, as we were beginning, it's amazing to hear you in South Africa. It's really great to see the amazing things that are happening in Africa. What does MedResponse do?
So, MediResponse is a global company that offers our clients worldwide access to pre-hospital emergency medical care and solutions. We run a global coordination center that it's an access point to emergency care where our teams will either escalate care to a doctor or a nurse within our team to give guidance or give input and assistance in terms of medical logistics. If somebody's sick and needs to be evacuated, we will send an aeromedical jet wherever they are in the world, and we will move them to a higher level of care. Now, that entire process is a logistical movement that our team has been doing for many, many years. And we've got mechanisms and people around us that we tie into whatever is going on in all countries to allow that patient the safest, most effective, fastest movement to a better level of care than they're currently experiencing, depending where they are and what injury or illness they're being presented with. That is the global side of our business. As a foundation of an organization, we started off in the ambulance world. So we run a large fleet of ambulances across the South African environment, as well as a training academy to keep our staff and our clients upskilled and up to date with the latest teachings in pre-hospital care. And then part of those other solutions rolls out on-site industrial, commercial, mining, oil, gas, where we place paramedics, doctors, nurses on sites to care for your clients who are operating in higher risk environments that require immediate response to our incidents that may take place either within the borders of South Africa or across the globe. Predominantly in the local African countries, we've got manpower, as well as into the European and I would like to say the United Arab Emirates environment, your Iraqs, Afghanistans, your more hostile environments that require immediate intervention from a practitioner to assist our clients who are working or doing whatever they need, whatever their job is on the ground, to give them the comfort and support that they know that when things go wrong, our team is there to fall back on, which has a further escalation matrix to our global support team, as I mentioned when we started, our global coordination center that can then orchestrate and logistically plan whatever movements we need. So we've really got a tied-in solution to our client base, but it also adds complexity to understanding environments across the world, and every single place is very different to the next. So we've got teams that do comprehensive site analysis, build medical emergency response plans, learn which hospitals are in the local areas, who the closest individuals are should we need to escalate in a mass casualty event, where the closest airports are, where do we evacuate to, how do we evacuate. It's very complex, and we've got a fantastic team within the MediResponse world that works hand in hand with our clients to ensure that they can continue to operate and do their jobs that they set out to. I hope that
Amazing.
was...
Yeah, that has really global picture on what is happening there, and amazing, and with lot of complexity, logistics to think about. You're the global CEO of the organization. How do you ensure you still remain connected and aware of what's happening in every place?
Sure. So within our world, and what I've learned over time is the pre-hospital world is very different to other organizations that might be in your FMCG goods or anything like that. Because our world is so, I want to say, life and death, I'm involved in 98% of what is happening. I might not be on the front line, but
Mm,
we have the back end communication systems that alert eventually will sit on my desk and say, we've got clients who are operating in a hostile environment, the daily check-ins, we get the weekly reports, we get the minute by minute updates when there's an incident. And that all comes back into our executive team and myself to ensure that we have our finger on every single pulse within our organization. It does become a lot of work, but it ensures that our service delivery meets our expectations and exceeds expectations continuously. So we are very much a hands-on executive team. I won't say it myself on my own, but our entire executive is very much involved in the most granular processes, ensuring that the teams on the ground and our managers and supervisors are reporting back so that we can get involved when we need to. And that's how we've managed to build what we build as an organization and lead from an executive perspective rather than from a on the ground only perspective.
yeah, amazing, amazing. The world is changing by the minute. The way we even do healthcare is we're gonna have to rethink it. And healthcare sometimes tend to be a slower process
Yeah.
to really get up with the technology and everything that is happening. From where you sit, leading such a massive global organization that is quite critical, what do you think the impact of AI is and will be?
So AI has become very interesting in our world. As we're learning and I want to use, we're playing with these types of algorithms that are coming out and products, we're realizing that there's a massive human element that is still needed.
Mm,
We can use AI to guide us, but the human experience, the I've been part of this process, I know what to look for. We are having to redirect the algorithms and redirect the thinking processes, and I'm sure that over time we're going to be put in a position where it's thinking for us. But at this point in time, what we're using AI for is to guide us rather than to be the sounding block to what we're doing. We're using
mm,
it to say, have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? Rather than follow that as the direct and only approach because it's the new in thing to do. So our clinicians, we keep reminding to fall back on their training, fall back on their experience, and really check and double check what AI is putting forward to us when we are utilizing it. Just to give you a little bit of insight from our world, what we've developed is a product that we can deliver our manpower into the field with. It's a box that would go with our practitioners. And then we use technology but to send that information back into our global coordination center, where our clinical team would then assess and diagnose that information once it's gone through the AI systems that we've put in place. AI is
mm,
becoming it's fast tracking our ability to make decisions. It's giving us the leading edge in terms of being able to action really quickly. But at
mm,
the same time, we have to keep reminding ourselves that it's a tool and it's there to be used as a tool. It is not the be all and end all when it comes to patient treatment. And it's not the be all and end all when it comes to patient decision making. We've got a really cool thought process in the emergency or pre-hospital space where we say treat the patient, not the monitor.
mm,
And the monitor, or in this case, the AR device or whatever you're using, might be telling you one thing. But if that patient is sitting there, calm, collected, healthy, well, treat the patient. Yes, keep in the back of your mind what this device is telling you, but they're still human. They still deserve the human element to care. And that is
mm.
what we push across our practitioners every single day.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I was speaking to a registered nurse yesterday who was like, "Oh my goodness, we've got all these machines in our intensive care unit, and now I feel like I'm being forced not to think," which is a very scary place to think. From the outside as a patient. I'm also trained in the healthcare, but to just think that there's machines operating, which we can't shy off from because AI is here to stay. But it is interesting to hear it from a perspective as a leader that it is actually a tool that we need to use to our advantage as opposed to
Yeah,
giving it the executive function of decision making in our world,
it's
which is,
exactly it.
and maybe we might get there, maybe not. But again, as a leader, from that leadership perspective, how do you hold the tension between building scalable systems, talking about AIs,
Yeah.
and still allowing the real time judgment and humanity in your way of team's response?
So there's a fine balance.
Mm,
We can't forget about AI. We can't
mm,
forget about the new technology and the new tools. What we've done as an organization is we have put those tools into practice. But as I said a few moments ago, we've put it as part of the toolkit, part of the medical pack that the practitioner has the ability to lean on when they feel they need to lean on that equipment. It's the same as having a defibrillator or a patient monitor, an oxygen saturation device. It's part of your toolkit. Use it when you feel you need to use it, but
mm,
always fall back on your training. And then what we've also done from our side is we've created clinical escalation pathways. So the practitioner out in the field knows that they can question anything that they're being presented with and escalate it to another practitioner, whether it be a paramedic or a doctor who's been in that scenario or similar scenario previously, that can check and double check. We're an organization that doesn't criticize the questioning of a practitioner. If they are unsure, we would rather that they've escalated to somebody higher skilled than them. We commend them for escalating it because it limits the liability and the risk when they do the necessary on the patient, because then we know that they've done the best to their ability with the added values that the senior clinician has given them to their treatment regime. So
mm.
it becomes part of the entire package rather than the only go-to. To bring it back into context in terms of how we've integrated that, we just on the daily add an additional system to our practitioners' world, and we trial. We don't use them as the primary. And if it works, we keep on adding to it. If it doesn't work, we bring it back to the drawing board, to our clinical guidance and clinical teams to really dive in to see what was right, what was wrong, and how do we better that entire process.
Right. Working in such a high pressured environment and the teams that you lead, and particularly when it's medical, it can be emotionally draining too. How do you ensure yourself and the team you stay grounded without really burning out? Long hours, things you see that no human should see. How do you support them and or yourself?
So what we've got from our side is we call it an employee assistance program, and all of our staff across our organization have access to it. It offers our staff who are traveling, um, I want to say, teams and virtual consultations with counselors to brief and debrief and work through what they're dealing with. But if they are within country, we are also able to arrange face to face counseling and debriefing for our staff, no matter what they're dealing with. And, and that really has given our team and our system the breathing space that it deserves, because we know that we're humans and there's only so much we can take.
Mm,
Some people are able to take on more than others, and we're aware of that. But there are others that require the constant debriefing and the ability to access a system that helps them through what they see every single day. And we are very proud to say that we care about our employees, and We really want our employees to see it as a tool in their toolkit to ensure that they are functioning optimally out in the field, rather than it being, oh, they went to see a counselor, there must be something wrong, we need to get rid of them out of the organization. That it mustn't be seen as that at all. It must be seen as the grounding block to ensure that they can remain as they were when they entered the pre-hospital world and environment. Today, whether it be 5 years, 10 years, 15 years in, they still need to be able to function as they did when they started.
Do you see a higher percentage of psychological risk claims? What does that look like in the organization?
Not specific, so I can't talk on the claim side. What I can say is that, so we don't
Yeah.
see any of the data that our systems generate. All it says is the utilization across the staff base was either up 5% or down 10% or whatever it is month on month. What it is really good on our side to do is to know that our staff and our practitioners are utilizing the systems, which means clearly there is a need for it, because our staff are logging in, they're logging onto the app, they're going through the processes, they are desperately looking for a foundational system that they can vent to, that is a trusted environment. There's definitely, and you never saw, they used to say, a practitioner who cries after they're seen is a weak practitioner. I mean, that I'm talking years ago and how we used to practice in our world. But the entire ethos has changed around that to say, well, you need to get it out. What you see and what you deal with on a daily basis is not normal. The death, the destruction, the chaos, the keeping families calm on a big accident scene, anywhere it is, on a major industrial accident where somebody's been pulled through a machine. That stuff is not normal to go into. Yet our practitioners are choosing to go into those environments to help. By offering them these employee assistance programs and counseling and all of that, they have a mechanism to debrief and really work through what they saw to make them the best people that they can be.
That said, and I asked that question to lead to this question. In terms of culture, how important is culture from where you sit, and how do you ensure the culture in the organization is what you, as an organization, you're wanting? I don't know what the culture you're wanting you cultivate
Yeah,
within the organization, but how do you ensure it's really being driven by your values, it's what you really want to see,
yeah,
and bearing in mind you're global.
yeah. So if you walk through the front doors of our organization, the first sign that you see is a sign that says life matters and people come first. Now, what we've tried to do is subconsciously talk to our employees to drive into the subconsciousness of them that we're a people-based organization. We deal with people every single day. The culture that we are trying to build and continue building is one of inclusivity, openness, transparency, and the ability to do more for people around us. If we can do more for people around us within our organization, then naturally, when we're faced with a client or a patient, we're naturally going to do more for them. It's a very hard task from an executive perspective to continue the cultural expectations, because I don't believe that culture can be taught. I believe that culture is just something that naturally happens by the way of the organization driving their foundational requirements out of their employees. So it's a very fine line between needing to get the maximum out of people from a business perspective, and on the complete other side of it, get the most out of them from a practitioner perspective and the ability to do more for our patients. For me, bedside manner is absolutely imperative. There's nothing worse than being treated really badly. Forget the medical treatment, just the verbal, how you come across, how you engage. Do you carry the patient's luggage to the vehicle, or do you tell the family member, I'm treating the patient, you bring it? It's that environment that we try and create where our practitioners are empathetic to the scenario that they're dealing with. And that empathy needs to follow suit all the way from executive all the way down to the people taking the rubbish out at the gate. It's an entire organization process that we are working on to ensure that our ethos as an organization is lived by every single person.
Right. Working in different geographical spaces, how do you ensure that your staff, first of all, the legal implications in different areas, how are you able to juggle that? Because you come to Australia, it's different, the expectation are different. You go to Finland, the expectation are different. You go to Kenya,
Yeah.
the expectation are different. How do you manage that from a leadership perspective and really driving, again, thinking culture, and ensuring that you're still meeting the geopolitical or restrictions of every area that you're represented?
So every area that we work in, from a leadership perspective, we have to understand the legalities. The premise from a practitioner perspective worldwide should not change in terms of their approach, which is important. Yes, there's guidelines to follow. Yes, you may be able to give one medication in South Africa, but you can't give that same medication in Australia or in Sydney or in a different state. And every state has a different protocol to follow. Those are just your practitioners understanding the guidelines in the environment that they're working. But provided they are treating the patients ethically and in a non-libelous way, the foundations of how they approach each scene should not change. We as an organization need to ensure that we're giving the practitioners the foundations to work from. And if we are operating in Sydney, we know that the medical or the medication bag can't have X medication in it. That's up to us to ensure we understand the complexities around those laws. But provided the organization understands the laws that they're operating in the different jurisdictions, the practitioner's approach should not change to the way they're treating a patient. And that's how we've driven our care cross border.
Right. What happens when you go to the rural remote areas? Are there some specific challenges in areas where, because you would be called in places, but you talked about oil and gas and mining.
Yeah.
What are the challenges that you face there? And I'm coming here to then wrap it up with how, as leadership, we deal with challenges different.
Yeah. So every environment that we go into as an organization, and as from a media response perspective, we prefer the more austere, more hostile, more remote environments because it's a challenging world to work in. We know that we're limited on the amount of equipment, medication, and everything else that goes into a remote environment setup. But to complement that, we know that our system from a global coordination center and our team from a clinical escalation are backing those practitioners out in the field. So we give the comfort to our practitioners to know that when things go wrong, they're not on their own. They might feel like physically they're on their own, but they've got an escalation matrix that they know is there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we've also got the means from an evacuation perspective in order to send backup in when things are going terribly wrong. So it's giving the mental comfort to the practitioner, because if they feel comfortable, they're happy to operate anywhere in the world. They know what they've been sent out into the field with, and they know what they can fall back on when things go wrong. And from a leadership and a business perspective, we've had to ensure that fallback system and mechanism is so strong and so well defined in place that, as I said, makes no difference where in the world you're operating. The teams feel comfortable knowing that we've got their back.
Amazing, amazing. So, systems and processes, one of the things we can deal with the challenges, being very clear in our culture. What are some other things that, as leadership listening to us today, when they are facing challenges, they need? What are some tools they need to get from their toolkit?
I think a big thing to think about and keep reminding ourselves on is go back to basics. Go
Mm.
back to the foundations of where everything started, depending on whatever task you're dealing with.
Mm.
Provided the foundations are in place, you are able to move forward effectively. When the basics are not in place, it makes your decision making and the more complex decisions that much more difficult to navigate. So surrounding yourself with, if you we like to say, if you're not the most experienced person in the, if you're the most experienced person in the room, you're in the wrong room. I know that I need a team around me to help me guide me from a leadership perspective or from an executive perspective on my decision making. I'm skilled, but I require input from everyone. I don't have to listen to it, but that input can be valuable if I hadn't thought about it going into a scenario. So provided we all sit down and we work out and understand the basics, we put them all out in front of everyone and we work through it together as a team and as a unit and not as a single individual, knowing that we can fall back on one another, then it's a recipe for success.
Decision making is critical. Critical when we are talking about life and death, critical when we are saying which team do I send, critical in the business and making sure the business is
Yeah.
moving forward, critical in everything we do. You, as a person, as a CEO soul, do you have a framework of how you make decision?
So every decision that I need to make, there's calculation behind it. I believe that at an executive level, at a CEO level, there has to be calculated risk. Risk is part of our everyday. Yes, out in the field, it's life and death. From a executive perspective, that risk changes and that matrix changes slightly. But the way I navigate it is by bouncing ideas off trusted people around me and understanding that calculated risk. Yes, you'll make a decision. You'll know what your potential failures may be, but you can prepare for them should they happen. If they don't happen, great, and we continue moving forward. If they happen, well, these are the mechanisms that we've put in place to fall back on and start working around those issues that crop up when we're making those decisions.
What is the one decision you have made and you remember it because you think I could have done better? And what did it cost you?
Hmm. I mean, I guess I want to take us back to when I was a practitioner, physically working on the road. I used to be a advanced life support. I still am an advanced life support paramedic, but when I was operational on the road, the story comes back to me every single day. And there was no way of changing the outcome of it. But just to give you some context, I was dispatched and sent to a person who was involved in a motor vehicle accident. On arrival on that scene, the patient was entrapped underneath a heavy vehicle that was on top of his vehicle. And I was treating him as a regular trauma patient. Now, what I didn't know, and what I'll get to in a few moments, is that made no difference what I did for that patient, he was inevitably going to die. And when I arrived on scene, I was talking to him. We were treating him. I was walking him through that process of care, what was going to happen. The firemen were going to cut at this angle. We were going to put this strip up. We'll give him that medication. And throughout the entire process, everything seemed like it was going right. The moment the fire department lifted that vehicle off him, just by nature of the incident, the patient died, and
Mm.
there was no stopping it. I guess what that scenario has taught me is that you can put whatever mechanisms in place to protect the next step, but you have no control of the end outcome. You just need to plan and prepare as best as possible and make that journey as comfortable as possible for everyone around you as you're progressing through it. So that's something that really stood with me since I'm talking 15 years ago now, and I still remember. I can see my patient literally facing me. Um, and I take that foundational understanding into a lot of what I do on the daily, and I come back to that preparation and ensuring that the ABCs are covered, and ensuring that the foundations are there, and ensuring that the right people are surrounding us in our decision making. Because when things go wrong, you want to know that your team is there to support you. And unfortunately, as I said, this man passed away. But when we did declare him, everyone was okay with it. Everyone on
Mm.
that scene understood what was done, how it was done, and followed the right processes. And that's really what's one of the key lessons I've learned in my emergency care life that has stuck with me.
Lovely. And what has been one of the greatest achievement, the one that you think, yeah, that one, we did it?
Another story that would come to mind would be a being sent to an a complete inverse of this last story, dispatched to a woman in labor and delivering a child in the back of an ambulance on the way to a hospital, and 10 or 15 years later knowing and walking past that child who's now an adult is something that you can't explain. You were able to take a chaotic situation where the child may have died if they delivered at home, and is now a young student learning and growing in our world. To I may have delivered the next Einstein. Um, you will never know. But
Mm.
that for me, on the complete converse of the death, and that's also what teaches us in our world. Like, we deal with two paradox environments: life and the creation of life, and unfortunately putting that person or that body into the body bag and signing that declaration. All of these teach me, from a leadership perspective, the foundations of life in terms of how to deal with people, how to deal with scenarios, how to deal with issues that crop up in a business sense, and understand the processes that take place, and how going left or right may not affect a different outcome.
Mm. Mm.
um yeah, it's there's our world is life and death, and those two paradoxes give me the ability to make effective decisions in my role as a CEO of a really great organization that is giving our client bases across the world some really innovative, well-defined solutions to their risks.
Yeah, and talking about risk and safety, life, death, or it's all a dance. So for somebody listening to us and thinking, "Oh, Med's response sounds quite interesting," where would they start? How do they even become part of this
Cool.
group?
So we've
Yeah.
got a careers portal on our webpage, at www.mediresponse.co.za, that anyone can apply. We've got all positions, from administrative positions. I find it's so interesting and so cool to see people coming into our world who started off as an administrator and are walking out as doctors, because they've watched the journey and they know where to go, and we've educated them. We've got cadets, we call them cadets, who start off as first aiders coming out of school and working on our ambulances. And some of those cadets have become executive managers within our organization, who started off as schoolgoers. So getting in touch with us and getting involved with us can only be potentially lead to a really prosperous future. And yeah, we welcome anyone, as I said, from administrator all the way through to qualified practitioners.
So again, innovative solutions. I'm listening to things and I'm thinking, all right, I need to be covered and supported by Medi Response. How do people like if I'm a patient, or God forbid, but if I ever need your
Of course.
service, how
Sure.
does
Sure.
one become part of this?
So what we've done on our side is we have on our website again, we've got access forms that people can fill out, and in our different service verticals, we have different forms that our clients engage with us on, and it's a central point of us of gaining access to all of our solutions as an organization.
Amazing, amazing. It's an amazing job you're doing there. Then getting back to you, and I know you talked about EAP and all this. There's a lot on your shoulder, and as
Yeah,
always, leadership is leadership, and for the most part, nobody ever asks, "How are you going?" So I'm gonna ask, "How are you, and how do you stay grounded?"
sure. So as I said, I started my career as a practitioner in the environment, and I worked my way through all the different qualifications in the pre-hospital field. The way I stay grounded in my day to day is I take personal time. Um, I guess, a health fanatic. I enjoy my gym and being outdoors and eating healthy and just being active and breathing from the day to day. I can assume that any executive role has major pressures, and that time out and away from the office and away from the day to day is absolutely imperative. What I've also learned is that it's incredibly important to have a strong management and executive team, because then you're not holding the entire burden. Some organizations only have a CEO to run with everything. Yes, you're expected to worry about everyone's issues. But if you've got a strong team around you and you know that the operations are being effectively managed by your chief operations officer, and you've got a great HR team and an HR system, and you've got a great staff engagement system, and you've got a great operational supervisory team on the ground, you know that when things reach you, you know that that's when you need to get involved. If they reach you and they don't need to be at your table, you can always push it downward towards the operational management and know that they will very well manage the situation. And those systems that I've put in place on my side have given me the ability to grow and scale our business and think of that blue sky opportunity and take that calculated risk, because I know that the team around me is going to support what I'm thinking and give me constructive criticism in terms of my approaches to my day to day as a leader of MediResponse as an organization.
Amazing, amazing. Saul, I'm quite aware that obviously your day is quite a busy day. Thank you so much for taking your time to have a chat here with us and tell us
Thank
what
you
is
for
it that
having
you're
me.
doing with MedResponse. It's been amazing to hear about amazing work that is happening in South Africa and globally under your leadership. Um, Thank you so much. What you've shared here is really, it could speak to, you could speak directly to one person, maybe an operational leader responsible for high risk clinician, somebody who's listening to us who's leading people. What are the 5 key takeaway you want them to take from this conversation?
So, as I said, there's a couple of big things in my world. Going back
Mm.
to basics and really ensuring that the foundations are set for growth is important. You can't build from a foundation that isn't there. And the other major thing from my side is to surround yourself with great people. If you are the most clever person in the room, you're in the wrong room. You need to surround yourself with very clever people and know that they're going to be constructively criticizing your decision making for the benefit of everyone around us. And if we can work as a team to put those foundations in place, it's just a recipe for success.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a
Lovely.
brilliant day ahead.